want all or nothing. So we give 100% of ourselves. We try to everything, and it can't be done.
So you tell your kids to not try to do everything,
Right.
to try to focus on something.
Yeah.
How do you advise them, or our students in the audience, of how to choose that focus?
Well,
of all of the opportunities in the world, which one should they focus on?
I mean, I always like to say passion. It might sound airy-fairy, but for me, when I left teaching, it was because I lost the passion. I lost passion in my days. Now, some people get stuck. They stay in a job. So if that's you and you're working 9 to 5, you're not passionate about your job, not everybody in this world will be passionate about what they do. Maybe you do want to focus more on family. Maybe that will bring you more passion. For me, it was about family at that moment of time in my life. I was passionate about being a good mother. I was passionate about not having to look back 20 years later and saying, you know, why did I work so many hours and ignore them and maybe pay the price? So for me, it was a balancing act. So I had to put my work then on the back burner, which didn't make me happy, but I just had a strong feeling that my family, 4 kids, had to come first, and my marriage.
So find your passion.
Find your passion, number 1.
Where does your passion from food come from?
It's funny, it actually comes from one, de-stressing. So I was back doing an MBA. I had 2 babies at home, and I was stressed. I was not a business-minded person. I was an arts-minded person. And I would come home and start cooking, and I was a terrible cook. I want you to know, I couldn't
Sorry,
cook.
I have to stop you. The author of dozens of best-selling cookbooks was a terrible cook.
Okay, here's what happens. My mother, God bless her, who's no longer with us, was not a very good cook. She'd be the kind of cook on a Friday night dinner. I came from a Jewish family that said, I'd say, Ma, what time do you want us all over for dinner? Any time, dear. But what time? Like, when are you putting the chicken or the brisket in? Any time, dear. Then I found out she had been cooking it for 48 hours. And this is we were coming in, and we never died, or no food poisoning, but she was not a good cook. Apparently, my grandmother was an amazing cook who I never got to meet. So I started cooking, and it de-stressed me, and I started to learn. I went, hey, this is not bad. First time I made a cheesecake, I didn't know we cut it and it flowed out. You needed straws to eat it. I remember I bought veal. I didn't know that there was, you know, better veal or cheaper veal, so I bought the cheap veal. My husband barely could cut it. I mean, you know, I really learned like that. But it de-stressed me, and I started enjoying it. But then I started to cook high fat. So this is the funny thing. I found that the more cream, the more butter I added, deep frying, everything tasted sensational. And this is how I started cooking. And I self-published my first 3 or 4 books, all high fat. Well, lo and behold, I didn't tell you that genetically in my family, everybody died in their 50s. No exaggeration. Heart attack, diabetes type 2, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. It was genetics.
And you're making a high-fat menu at home.
I had no connection.
With this predisposition.
Yeah, I was an overweight kid, and then kind of got control of it, and I started running 4 or 5 miles a day, and I went, okay. So I say, don't judge a book by its cover. Because you're slim does not mean you're healthy. So here I was. I consider myself a very fit mother of 2. Went to my regular physical. My doctor said, your cholesterol's off the Richter scale. I went, what?
Because at this time you were running 5K a day,
5 miles
you
a
were in
day.
school, you got 2 daughters.
2 kids. I'm eating.
And he said your cholesterol's high
And I said,
you're
what?
at risk.
And I said, well, wait a minute. I'm 100 and something pounds. I work out every day. What do you mean? He says, I don't care what. He says, I'm just telling you what the numbers read. He says, tell me what the history is of your family. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God. And I tell people, look at genetically what goes on in your family. It means a lot. And I said, but I exercise. Has nothing to do with it. I was clogging my arteries in my 30s, which was setting the stage to be like my family in their 50s. I lost my dad when he was 55, grandmother at 52, all from these complications. So something went, whoa. 1993, I changed my ways. I started to look into light cooking, and I was so nervous that it was going to be so horrible. I said it's going to be like fish with a squeeze of lemon juice on it. Fruit's going to be the dessert. I found a whole new world, and in 1993, literally never turned back. Got my cholesterol in check in 6 months, and it's just been fantastic.